Now, I'll start with a story on a number of the front pages this morning about Britain's response to what's happening in the Middle East. The UK has, as of yesterday, suspended trade talks with Israel amid the country's military escalation in Gaza. I'll just show you the front of the Times here. UK ready to sanction top Israelis over Gaza. The situation was discussed in the Commons yesterday. Have a listen to what David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, had to say.
Madam Deputy Speaker, we are now entering a dark new phase in this conflict. Netanyahu's government is planning to drive Gazans from their homes into a corner of the Strip to the south and permit them a fraction of the aid that they need. Yesterday, Minister Smodrick even spoke of Israeli forces cleansing Gaza. We must call this what it is. It is extremism. It is dangerous. It is repellent. It is monstrous, and I condemn it in the strongest possible terms.
Before we come to what the Prime Minister had to say about the situation, Yasmin, I'm going to go to you. Do you think this has come too late?
Yes. It's nauseating for me to listen to David Lammy, a man I used to like, who sat at my dinner tables. He's waited this long to say what needed to be said and to do what needed to be done. And it's partly because Canada is driving it and other countries are driving this now after Mark Carney won. But it has been a disgraceful response, starting with Starmer, actually, quite early on LBC, when he was asked about food and water, I think water it was, and his response was Israel has the right to defend itself. I am not condoning what Hamas did. I hate Hamas, okay? I always hated Hamas. But what Israel's done in response, I don't know how we lived through it.
Jake, you've always been a staunch defender of Israel, and some people, you've heard what Yasmin has to say, well, this could end tomorrow if they simply returned the 58 remaining hostages.
I mean, I actually think the government's done the right thing here, and there comes a point, it is absolutely right to defend Israel and her right to defend herself and her people, and this could end if Hamas release the hostages. But I think what has changed is there's been a changing global opinion, and it's unfortunate to say that, like in so many things when it comes to foreign policy, Britain is a follower, not a leader, despite our politicians trying to say that we are leading on this. What has, I think, changed the mind of Britain, and frankly, I think what Britain says on the Israel-Palestine issue is almost irrelevant to Israel. What matters is the Americans. There was a significant snub to Benjamin Netanyahu, the leader of Israel, from Donald Trump on his recent Middle East visit, where he didn't, in fact, go to Israel. You're hearing messages out of America, Canada, and the EU condemning Israel. But what the government's done is right. Let me just give you one statistic, which is from the UN, that has warned that in the next 48 hours, 14,000 babies are likely to die. Yeah. 14,000 babies. This is long overdue. The government has done the right thing. Yeah. Israel has gone too far.
Well, listen, I mean, the Israeli government, of course, refutes those numbers. Also, they have scepticism about UN reporting, and they say that all of the health ministry that deliver the statistics are run by Hamas. This is the counterpoint and the point that they make.
Let's say it's out by a factor of half. Mm-hmm. If it was 7,000 babies who would go to die in the next 24 hours, I don't think that's any less despicable or appalling.
Independent journalists out.
Yeah.
It's their fault. They've kept out all journalists and killed 184 Palestinian journalists. So they can't object.
Well, I mean, some people would say, again, that the Israeli state, for a long period of time, was the only place where journalists could freely
not
operate.
Anymore.
But
not anymore. Not anymore.
Changed. Let's have a listen to what the Prime Minister said. He's also spoken about the situation, calling for a ceasefire and also the release of hostages. Here's Sir Keir.
Well, the situation is intolerable and unacceptable, but I do want to be really clear that humanitarian aid needs to get in at pace. The current situation in which we're seeing, the bombardment, including of children, and the prospect of starvation is just intolerable, which is why, as I say, we're coordinating with our allies on this.
I mean, it's impossible as a human being, as you say, not to feel deeply and profoundly concerned about what's taking place, to say the least. Again, I'm sitting here not as devil's advocate, but to make clear that the Israeli point of view is one which isn't just intransigent, but one where they say has some kind of foundation. For example, you can see that there are trucks on the Gazan Israel border. One of the concerns that Israel expresses is that when aid does go in, if it goes in, that it's misdirected and stolen by Hamas.
I don't believe anything Israel says to us anymore. I'm sorry. This is a government which is totally discredited. And it's not the state of Israel. It is Netanyahu's government and his cabal. I do not believe them.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it does seem to me there has been evidence of aid being stolen by Hamas. Hamas is a vile organisation and institution. And one of the interesting things that's happened this week is ordinary Gazans have been taken to the streets of Gaza saying, we want our life back, Hamas out, which is a very, very dangerous thing to do if you live in Gaza, because it is a vile and brutal regime. So there is bad on both sides in this conflict, and we should never forget that.
I was interested to listen to what you had to say, Jake, about us being a kind of fifth-rate power, which Israel and other nations, frankly, give their undivided indifference towards. The Israeli government, and it's interesting as well to listen to you that you can differentiate between Israel as a nation, and perhaps you must,
and
should,
and previous governments,
and the Israeli government. The Israeli government have issued a statement, I'm paraphrasing, but ostensibly saying they don't care. So what difference do these statements by Canada and France and Britain actually make?
Well, because diplomacy is about escalation, and that's why the government's done the right thing, pausing trade talks here. I know people are calling for them to go further, break off diplomatic relations, stop doing arms sales to Israel. There is a path of escalating sanctions, if you like, against Israel that the British government and the international community can follow to try and bring them back into the fold. Right. What you find is if you do everything on the first day, there's no incentive for them to start behaving well.
And interesting that there's been a turning of the relationship, or at least the noises that are being made from the White House. We watch this space. Our hearts go out, to say the very least, to those suffering in Gaza.
Let me tell you one little story. A young woman, 26 years old, made a wonderful film, Gaza photojournalist, and she was getting married 2 weeks from then. They killed her. I can't even say this without wanting to cry. And 10 members of her family at Cannes, they have remembered her. This has gone on and on and on, and Western governments have been complicit.
Well, there are a number of people who agree with you, and everybody wants it to come to an end. And we, whatever your political point of view, whatever your faith, frankly, pray for peace in that region, to be clear. Now.